Welcome to this week's episode of the Lido Loop. I'm your host, Jack McCraw. With me is a fully healthy now, Jesse Barboza. Hope you're feeling better, my man.
Oh, I'm doing good. I was pretty bad the past couple of days, but I'm good now.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's always a blessing whenever you recover from sickness. But tell us, what's on the show today?
Yeah, so in the cruise news, looks like the Mexican ports are now back open. There was a Norovirus outbreak on a ship, and now Carnival credit card has some new rewards.
That, and on the theme park side of things, Universal has finally tested a brand new roller coaster coming to Universal Hollywood, and Six Flags has announced the sale of 7 theme parks. What does that mean for those parks getting sold? We'll break it all down. That, and Jesse and I will review the Carnival Glory. That and much more on this week's episode of
The Lido Loop.
So kicking off the show, we're going to break down the latest and greatest in the cruise world. And last week, we talked about how certain ports in Mexico were closed. But now, Jesse, I'm hearing they're back open. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's really not too much to cover about this, but all the ports in Mexico that were closed due to the recent cartel violence are now back open. People don't realize that when these cruise ports are closed like that, nobody works because all these ports are very reliant on, let's be honest, mostly Americans that go to these ports and spend their money on it. So if no one's showing up these ports, no one's making money on these ports. So that means they can't improve the ports. They can't make anything better there.
And a lot of times this is like their livelihood, especially those little shops or those little restaurants that are right on the ports. If no one's going in there, like you said, no one's going to make any money and they have to find work elsewhere. So this is a good thing that most of these ports are open now and that things have, for the most part, stabilized in Mexico for these ports to be open.
Especially like all these items that say handmade and then you look in the bags, made in China or something like that. So I doubt it. It probably was handmade, I guess, from, some underpaid person.
Just in China, not in Mexico. Yeah, that happened to me when I bought a Cowboys backpack on the streets of Cozumel. I mean, this guy was very desperate to sell it. And, I gave him a 20s and, he said, okay, that'll work. I go to the port in Cozumel. They have a same little shop, and that Cowboys backpack was only $5. So I made that guy's day for a bad Cowboys backpack that was made in China.
Well, first off, the Cowboys are bad anyway, so.
Yep. I mean, it's not a show until we start talking about how bad the Cowboys are. So, of all you Cowboys fans out there, I'm sorry, I'm one of them. And I understand the pain that we go through on a season-by-season basis. But yes, that is a very good thing that the cruise ports are open in Mexico again, so these people can start working and that people can go explore these ports again in Mexico. And on another story, there is an outbreak of the Norovirus. Jesse, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so apparently on the Holland American Westerdam, almost 80 people fell ill to the Norovirus. This happened on March 1st. It was 65 guests and 11 crew. They had symptoms of acute gastritis. Symptoms include, of course, diarrhea, vomiting, and fever. While we're actually looking good this year compared to last year we had 8 cases at the same time, and at this year we've only had 6. So we're, I guess, heading in the right direction. But there are a few things that I do that I think everyone should do to make sure they don't get norovirus. One thing I do is I carry hand sanitizer around everywhere, even though the norovirus, a lot of people don't realize this, so the norovirus cannot get killed with alcohol-based sanitizers. The only way to get rid of it is you have to wash your hands. Another thing I do is I really don't eat at the buffet because a lot of people don't realize that even though you have utensils and you're not touching the food yourself, you don't know if the previous person touched the utensils that didn't wash their hands and then you touched them. That means you got the bad germs on your hands and all that. And then you go to eat and then you're transferring your germs to the food. So if you do use a buffet, I'm not saying not to use a buffet, just wash your hands before and after you get your food just to make sure that you kill everything off.
I'd say you might as well wash your hands after touching every single one of those, tongs and ladles that you use at the buffet. Yeah, buffets have always been kind of let's say, super spreader as far as diseases go, because like you said, you don't know who's washed their hands, who hasn't, and everyone's touching the same thing. Same with, a lot of door handles or just really any commonplace items in the ship. I mean, don't even think about what the bathroom. I mean, a lot of places, I mean, at least cruise ships now have a lot of, places where you can wash your hands and, can sanitize. So ever since COVID, they have really stepped up that sanitation aspect of cruising. And, hopefully this doesn't spread too much. And, people aren't blaming cruises for this like they did back during the COVID times.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that does happen in life. Everyone does happen, but another thing I do also is we carry like a thing of Germex, like wipes, and when we get to our cabin, we'll wipe down like the handles, and because you don't know if the previous person was sick before you came in, and let's be honest, the stewards they may clean up, but they may not sanitize your room.
Yeah, there's probably not too much deep cleaning that goes on unless the ship is just vacant, because it's kind of like as soon as one person gets off, another group comes on. So there's a continuous motion of people coming in and off the ship. So they probably don't have too much time to deep clean unless there's just no people on board.
Yeah, and the number one tip I give everyone is drink a lot of alcohol because it sanitizes you from the inside.
I think that's one way to not only cleanse the body, but just cleanse the mind and spirit as well. You're on a cruise and you pay for the drink package, so might as well. But, speaking of cruises, I'm hearing Carnival has some new rewards for their credit card. Jesse, do you want to go in a little bit about that?
So before I get started, I want to make sure let everyone know that Carnival or MasterCard did not sponsor us at all. I'm just giving some facts that I think are good to know. We did get an email from Carnival. They were talking about the new benefits of the Carnival credit card that I do hold. One of them is earn one status qualifying star per $1 point on your everyday purchases. That's up to 4 stars per dollar on your Carnival purchases, which combined with 3 stars you earn through Carnival Rewards. You earn 6 times points on Carnival purchases. You earn 3x points from your card plus 3x points through Carnival Rewards. You earn 2 times at restaurants and eligible grocery stores, excluding Target and Walmart, which I'm not sure why they exclude Target and Walmart.
Target, I understand, but Walmart, I don't know why. Everyone goes to Walmart. Walmart's awesome, guys.
And you also get additional $2,500 bonus points for every card anniversary after spending at least $2,000 on purchases. And to be honest, all these different rewards that I've seen have been really great because, to be honest, I've been considering actually canceling my credit card because it wasn't really like that great of benefits I felt originally. But with all the stuff I just listed, and then it also has built-in travel insurance on the credit card. They also have like 0% financing on all, like for like 6 months, I think it is, on all Carnival purchases. So if you're trying to pay for a cruise and you want to break it up in 6 months, but you're about to go the next week or something, it's great to just put it on the credit card. As long as you pay it off, that's what I do. Every month I just get all the points and pay it off every month.
That does sound like a very rewarding credit card, especially if you can essentially help you pay for these cruises in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing is I did talk about the travel insurance on the aspect. The only thing is it will work, but you have to pay for 100% with that credit card used. So like if you bought like a gift card and you pay $200 of your cruise on a gift card, they won't cover that cruise because you didn't buy 100% on that credit card. Make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. And with essentially having free travel insurance, I feel like it's worth it just in case something happens where you have to cancel or something goes out of your hands where you have to work around that cruise. So that's a very good quality to have for a good credit card, and that's something to look into, especially if you're an avid sailor like you are.
So that's all the news I have for cruise news and theme park news, Jack. So what's this new testing going on at Universal?
Yes, testing has started on Universal Studios Hollywood Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift, and I showed you the video, and you guys can check it out online as well. So it looks almost like a Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, where the karts and actually turn and move with the tracks. And this coaster actually has a couple inversions as well. So it's a multi-launch coaster themed completely to Fast and Furious, and you enter in different kind of sports cars and you kind of drift with the tracks. It's certainly going to be a very interesting ride that's going to open at Universal Hollywood, and that is believed to be the coaster opening at Universal Studios in 2028. So hopefully, Florida, they get that as well. But I mean, this looks like a very impressive roller coaster.
Yeah, Jack, I've definitely seen the videos of the roller coasters. It's definitely something I definitely would ride. But Jack, when does it open?
So they haven't announced an official date yet, but they have said summer of 2026. So hopefully within the next few months we could see this open. And it seems like an amazing, just one more great coaster to add to Universal's collection.
So another Universal news, you can now meet Yoshi.
Sure. So with the release of the brand new Super Mario Galaxy movie, Universal, Hollywood, and Epic Universe have announced meet and greets with Yoshi between March 10th through April 13th. And this is the first time Yoshi has been around as an everyday meet and greet character. Now, as a father of a son who is obsessed with Nintendo, he would be pretty excited to wait in line to see Yoshi, right?
Yeah, and he definitely likes to see characters and all that. So I'm definitely think he would definitely like Yoshi. I don't know if you're just taking pictures or
I'm pretty sure it's just like a standard meet and greet. I know the Mario characters, they sometimes talk or say something. I mean, Yoshi doesn't even say much anyway, except saying his own name, like it's a Pokemon character. But I think this is a cool meet and greet opportunity because Yoshi has only been featured on Universal Fan Fest occasions, but now he's an everyday character that you can meet for a limited time. And I'm sure that Yoshi's going to have a long line to meet because I think besides Mario, I think he's actually more popular than Mario. He's got a whole ride dedicated to himself at both Epic Universe and Universal Studios Japan.
so in other theme park news. So what's going on with Six Flags? And it seems like they're getting rid of 7 parks.
Yeah, so Six Flags has announced that they're going to sell 7 parks across North America. So the parks include Six Flags St. Louis, Six Flags Great Escape, Worlds of Fun, Valley Fair, Michigan's Adventure, Schlitterbahn in Galveston, and now Six Flags La Ronde. So in a previous episode, we did talk about the Six Flags St. Louis, Great Escape, Worlds of Fun, Michigan's Adventure, and Schlitterbahn all being trademarked as enchanted parks of those cities. But now Valley Fair and Six Flags La Ronde, which is in Montreal, are now all being sold to enchanted parks, with La Ronde being managed by a different company, but still under the same name. So what Six Flags doing is essentially shortening their portfolio. All the parks that are being sold are what they consider the mid-tier parks, the ones that haven't had too many investments over the last decade or so, and that ones that are good, but they're really not driving the needle for the company, not like Magic Mountain, the 2 Texas parks, Knott's Berry Farm, Cedar Fair, Kings Island, etc. So by shortening their portfolio, they are only focusing on the parks that they deem have the highest return on investment. And that is pretty sad to see some of these parks, like Six Flags St. Louis is an original built up from the ground Six Flags park before they started acquiring every other park in their chain. And then Valley Fair, of course, is one of the original Cedar Fair parks because Cedar Fair was initially a joint venture between Cedar Point and Valley Fair. So 2 historic parks in that chain are now being sold to someone else.
So what is it going to happen with the season passes? Are you going to be able to use these parks this year?
Yes. So us, for example, we have the South Region Pass. So our season pass will still work for Schlitterbahn Galveston, but only for this season. After this season, it's going to be owned by a completely different company. And then, going forward with all the other parks mentioned, if you still have a Six Flags season pass, you can still go to these parks. They're going to operate as normal under the Six Flags brand for at least this season.
So apparently one of the investors is Travis Kelce in this. So I definitely can see them changing one of the parks to Swippy Land.
They have a whole section. That's 2 football references in the show, guys. So yeah, Cowboys and Chiefs. With I think their headquarters being in Kansas City, that makes a lot of sense. And Travis Kelce being a big investor and big person in the Kansas City market, I understand why he's invested, but the Taylor Swift aspect of it, I mean, if you put a Taylor Swift, themed land or meet and greet in some of these parks, you're going to attract a whole lot of people because Taylor Swift has some of the biggest fandom in the world. But yes, as of right now, they have announced the sale and they expect the sale to be finalized sometime at the end of this month. And we'll keep you updated as far as everything going on with the Six Flags chain and the recent sales of the park. But now, Jesse and I are going to talk about our recent trip on the Carnival Glory.
Yeah, so I'll definitely start it off. So we chose this cruise because it was honestly, I think, the best date that worked for us and for my family, and then the three other people that went with us, which include me, my wife, two kids, Jack, of course, my brother Jacob, and his gambling addicted wife Maddie.
That was actually one of her terms, was that we only go on a cruise if there's gambling involved, and she was very happy about it. Another reason we chose this particular cruise was because we wanted to go to Universal. Initially, we were going to go to Epic Universe, but we ended up going to Islands of Adventure, and then we sailed out of Cape Canaveral. So we did a day at Universal, and then the next day we went to Cape Canaveral. And of course, we flew down to Orlando to do all this. We did choose Spirit whenever we flew down there, and the only problem with that is, the bags. None of us brought an actual suitcase, but we made it work for having a 5-day trip all in a backpack. It's certainly possible, and Spirit sometimes will let you get away with, just taking a backpack. We'll get more into that later on into the show, but Flying Spirit certainly has its ups and downs.
Yeah, so for the four of us in my immediate family, the ticket prices were about $400. So we paid about $100 per ticket, and then we were trying to get Jack and them to book at around the same time. And then as soon as we finished booking, I remember the price went way up. Do you remember that, Jack?
Yeah, we actually ended up getting a early morning flight with a layover in Atlanta. So we got to Orlando around a little before noon, and you didn't get there until almost midnight.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a lot cheaper, and we got it, I think, like a month before you did too, if I'm correct.
Yeah, because we waited to see what the prices were going to be like. Because we initially could have went a day earlier, but I think it worked out best for me, Jacob, and Maddie for us to get the flights at a little bit earlier time and just go from there. But we still were able to hang out in Orlando. We did some gator golf. We went to Icon Park. We essentially had a full day in Orlando to ourselves before I picked you up from the airport.
So as we mentioned, we originally planned on going to Epic Universe. So we got a hotel. It was a Hampton Inn. It was like right by the park. Instead, we ended up going with Islands of Adventure, which we'll talk about Islands of Adventure in another video. But the Hampton Inn, it was great. It was real close to all the Universal parks.
You didn't really like the waffles they had there, though.
Yeah, I'm definitely big on the Texas shaped waffles, and meat fighting with them, they still would not give me Texas shaped waffles.
He went to the manager and asked for Texas shaped waffles in Florida. That Texas pride runs throughout the country, but I guess it just hasn't transferred over to Florida yet. But yeah, we had no complaints about the Hampton Inn. It was within very close proximity to the Universal parks. We got there essentially in 5 minutes, and we were close enough to other popular Orlando destinations like the Gator Golf, as mentioned earlier, Icon Park. We could actually see the Ferris wheel at Icon Park from our windows. And, where we were staying was only an hour away from the cruise terminal as well.
Yeah, I think that hotel was great, and I would definitely stay there again. The whole area was really nice. It was very clean.
Yeah, and I think we chose to go on this Carnival ship, because of its affordability. I remember me, Jacob, and Maddie only paid about $400 a person for the 3 nights that we went on the Carnival Glory. Yeah, it is a shorter, ship, or shorter time on a ship, and we went to, this Celebration Key. And, we did do a whole review on Celebration Key actually in our first episode. So if you want to go back and check that out, y'all are more than welcome to. We'll kind of go over it here a little bit as well. But, with that short ship, we gambled, we ate, we slept, did the water park, and some of the water slides. It was certainly a fun, short experience that we did on the ship.
Yeah, so embarking the ship, it really didn't take us that long. I think this was definitely the smoothest terminal. I don't know, what do you think, Jack? It was very smooth.
I remember not having to wait that long. We got in, not even 5 minutes. They checked us, got our passport, looked at, and we were just sitting in the waiting room longer than we are actually waiting to enter the cruise terminal.
Yeah, I liked it because the parking was literally like right there next to the cruise terminal. We literally, I think, went down one flight of stairs and you were like right into the cruise. It walked you right into the cruise terminal.
It was much smoother than Galveston, and with this being the only two ports that I've actually embarked out of, Galveston and Cape Canaveral. Cape Canaveral like vastly exceeds Galveston as far as handling this vast amount of people and just getting us on the ship as quickly as possible.
Yeah, the only complaint I really had about the port was, I don't know if you remember this, was first off, after you go through check-in and all that, when you go to sit down, they almost like herd you like cattle. They tell you sit here, 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 and then you can't hear anything that they say. It almost sounds like Charlie Brown, like the whoa, 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 whoa.
I remember like people around us, I was just waiting for them to get up so I could get up. I mean, I guess you could always walk up to the, person in charge of boarding and say like, hey, is it my turn? But yeah, if there was one complaint, that would be my complaint as well. Do you remember what some of your first impressions of the ship were?
Yeah, I mean, because I did go on their sister classes. I've been on the Conquest and the Freedom. So I kind of knew what to expect of the ship because they're very similar. It's definitely age ship walking into the ship for the first time. But they still keep it clean.
There were a lot of similarities I saw between this ship and other Carnival ships that I've been on. But overall, it was a nice, clean ship. And, it didn't feel like it was super crowded. That was another thing that I noticed. I understand it was a short, essentially weekend trip out of Cape Canaveral. I thought it was going to be a packed ship, but aside from the check-in point where everyone was just waiting on the Lido deck to get into their room, I never felt cramped or tight in that ship.
Yeah, one thing I do remember in that when we first got on that first day, I don't know if you remember this, Jack, but it was raining real bad. And then I know Carnival's known for the sail away parties. And then I remember they got on the speaker and said, sail away parties canceled.
Yeah, I think they actually tried to do something in the atrium, but that's about it. Like I actually do look forward to the sail away parties. That's one of my favorite parts about sailing on Carnival. So seeing that cancel was kind of disappointing.
So what'd you think of the atrium going into it?
Beautiful. I love that Carnival puts a lot of attention to detail to make it look like a very luxurious voyage that you're about to be on with the atrium. Every other part of the ship, looks more or less like a ship, but I just love that the atrium is probably, if not the most beautiful part of that ship.
So I know me and you both had different type of room styles. I think we had an inside cabin for us four, and y'all had a room with a window. Is that correct, Jack?
Yes, and going forward, that's what I would like to have on ships, just because the interior room, for lack of a better term, feels like you're in a closet. And, I've done interior, I've done balcony once. This is the first time that I've done a porthole view, and the room is a little bit more spacious. So with three of us in the room, it was certainly better than me sleeping in like a hospital bed from the ceiling like was in the interior room. So if you have a bigger party, I personally recommend at least a porthole, and I do like seeing the ocean as well. I don't feel as claustrophobic if I'm not in an interior room.
Yeah, I know the entertainment. I didn't really go to any shows, or I don't think I went to any comedy shows or theater shows. Did you go to any, Jack?
We did a candy trivia one of the days. There was a Name That Tune, and I actually got a ribbon because I came up and sang a Lifehouse song. Hanging by a Moment. That's what it was. It came to me later. And I was surprised that was the same as the first place person who got first place for Guess That Song. So I just got up there and I get a free medal. That's what happens in Carnival now.
Yeah, usually the smaller ships like in the Conquest class like this, like the Glory, they usually don't have a lot of shows going on. Of course, they do have the typical with every Carnival ship. They got the bingo, they got the Love and Marriage show. On every ship they got the same thing. But this one really didn't have a lot that we desired to go to. So now let's talk about the casino, Jack. How was the casino to you?
To me, it was very similar to other ships that I've been on. The only one that I saw that was very different was Fun 21 that me, you, and Jacob played a little bit, and that was the first time I've ever seen that type of game. I went to the craps table and met a few new friends there. It's certainly it's a nice casino. I mean, I didn't really do particularly well, but they have the standard your Buffalo, your Dragon Link. So and those are the type of games I look forward to the most. They didn't have bubble craps, which is like the virtual craps where the dice rolls by itself and you just hit a button to roll it. That's something I was looking forward to. So I was actually playing at the actual craps table. Did you have better experience at the casino than I did?
I mean, honestly, yeah. I mean, the casino wasn't nice to me, but to be honest, this was probably the most fun I had at a casino because I was playing with y'all. I had fun. I don't know why. In the casino, to me, it's a lot funner having like I don't know. I know funner's not a word, but I'm gonna say it here anyways. Uh, it's a lot more fun with more people than like just yourself. I think it's because people hyping you up and stuff.
For sure. Like the times that we've been to Vegas, it's definitely more entertaining when we have a big group of people. Do you remember some of the bars that we went to?
I know I went to, of course, the casino bar because we're right there. I know we did try the sports bar. What did you think of the sports bar?
I liked it. There were games going on one of the days that it got really crowded, but for most, you know, lower, I would say lower tiered events, like it's not too crowded. But if you're a sports fan, you definitely got to get to that sports bar early if you want. If there's a particular game that you want to watch. I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and of course, the Tides Bar is always a good place to go to.
Yeah, the biggest problem with our sports bar though is so small. It seems like Carnival definitely on the newer ships they have made them bigger. Like on the Jubilee, it's a whole back area. It kind of combines with their guys barbecue area, and it's kind of like a whole area that's made to be a sports bar. And that's definitely what I think Carnival's going to be going to in the future.
I think they should take a page out of MSC's book because when you went on the MSC Seascape, it was the sports bar and the casino, and it was significantly bigger than anything we've seen on Carnival.
Yeah, me and my wife and my kids, we all have the drink package. So of course, me and my wife, we had the alcohol package, and then my kids just had the bubbles package. Uh, Cheers, we had Cheers. I just came to me. I don't know why I couldn't think of the name of it, but so the drinks on Carnival, I think are really good. Overall, the mixed drinks, I think they mix it great. The only thing that kind of bugs me is that you have to sign for everything, even though you have the drink package and you already prepaid your gratuities. They make you sign something everywhere. I know other cruise lines, you just have to tap your card and you're done. You don't have to worry about signing any paperwork.
So one thing that was actually pretty surprising to me was the price of the drink. So you had the drink package, I did not, and I there was a night where I was buying some drinks, and it was fairly affordable. It's almost like going to a slightly higher end bar because most bottles are $10 and shots are around $10 to $15 depending on what you get. Which I thought for Carnival prices it was going to be double that. So I mean, if you don't get the drink package, I still think overall it's cheaper if you get the drink package if you're actually going to drink every single day. But for someone like me who only drank that one night, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I remember dreading that bill after that night at the casino we had, and luckily it was fairly affordable.
Yeah, definitely. I know for food wise, we had your time dining. We had like the early dining at 6 o'clock, which honestly, me personally, I think that the smaller ship or any carnival ships, I think it's better to choose your time dining because or your set time dining because you guarantee you have to wait in line, you don't have to worry about checking in, you just show up at the restaurant every day. But on the XL class ship, it's definitely better if you go on the Jubilee, the Mardi Gras, or Celebration. It's definitely better to get your time dining because you have free access to um, the Italian restaurant and the Cucino, and then also the Mexican and I don't know why I can't think of the name of it, Mexican and Asian infused restaurant. Uh, but what do you think of the food there, Jack?
Oh, excellent. I've never had a problem with Carnival's food. I think I had Guy's Burgers twice on that 3 day, cruise that we went on. And of course, the dining is always spectacular. I usually get a steak one night, chicken the other, and I try something new on, the last night or one of the nights. But the steak's perfect, chicken's perfect. There's just not, for food wise, I've never had a complaint with Carnival.
Yeah, Carnival. You definitely can't say anything bad about Carnival and the selection and the variety of food they have because they got on this ship. They this was actually one of the smaller ships with the amount of food they had. Of course, they have your typical Guy's Burger, your Blue Iguana, and they do have like your Crab Shack or what they call that seafood place. I know that is extra, but I have eaten food there. It was really good.
Yeah, Jacob ordered, I believe, some crab legs and shrimp there, and he said it was worth it.
I mean, it's definitely not as much as like our adventure on Jubilee, the amount of food places, because they have probably 10 times as many food places, but it was still a great place to eat. Most cruise lines, you pretty much just got the buffet and the main restaurant.
The only disappointment thing I would say was they didn't have the Guy's barbecue on the Glory like they did on the Carnival Breeze.
Yeah, I think they changed it to like a chicken and waffle place upstairs. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, and that when I went on the Breeze, that was my favorite place to eat. It was surprisingly good considering it was a, chain barbecue. And us being Texans, we know good barbecue.
Yeah, for considering a ship barbecue and all that, how the smoke situation works and all that, it's Guy's Burger is or Guy's Barbecue is pretty good, but I mean, like I said, this wasn't really on that ship, so we can't give Carnival Glory credit on that.
No. I was going to say on those other ships, do you think they smoke them in the tailpipe? That's why you always see smoke coming out of it. That's just the brisket being made.
That's exactly what they do.
Did you try any of the buffets? Because I didn't really get a chance to eat it. And I'm not too big of a buffet person unless it's breakfast.
Yeah, same here. I'm not a big buffet person either. I don't know why, but I do like buffets at like hotels. Maybe because I'm cheap and I like to get like I think I mentioned earlier like Texas shaped waffles. But on a cruise ship, yeah, I didn't try the buffet at all. One thing I did notice is that Carnival definitely got to do a better job of it. This is like they got to make people wash their hands a lot more. I've just walked through it and to see how people are around the buffet, and it makes me just have not an appetite at all.
It's almost like you need to start wearing gloves whenever you're getting all your food.
Yeah,
You're just grabbing the chicken strips with like the tongs, like wash. Grab some fries, wash.
yeah,
we definitely need to up their game as far as the sanitation goes. But we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. The only time I personally ever felt crowded was first getting on the ship when everyone's just waiting to get in their rooms. Did you ever feel that way as well, that it wasn't too crowded?
Yeah, the only time I really felt like it was crowded was the embarkation day, which every ship, I don't know why, I get so stressed out on embarkation day just because of everyone moving around. There's nowhere to sit, nowhere to, everyone goes to Guy's Burger first, so the line's so long. But that's like to me, out of all the ship days, other than disembarkation, that's my least favorite day.
That's kind of the wild west, isn't it? Where you just have to find a table, you throw your backpack or suitcase down on there, and that's what you claim.
Yeah, usually that's the best tip I give everyone on embarkation day is have one person get a table, then always have one person stay there while someone's getting food or whatever, and they're watching all your stuff until the room's open. Because usually rooms open up at 1. So usually it has about 2-3 hours of just sitting there, not really want to do anything because you got all your backpacks and everything with you. So like I said, just get someone to sit there. Most of the times there's one person willing to do it regardless because they're waiting for the stateroom to open anyways.
I have a perfect solution to counteract everyone on the Lido deck waiting and in the atrium. Open the casino early. Like go out just enough to say, okay, the casino's open. But the crazy part is there are actually people that go to the casino and they sit in front of the machines and they wait for them to open because that's just the machine that they want to play.
Yeah, I do. You're right. Actually, on that particular sailing, I do remember walking by someone like as soon as we got on and walked through the casino, I saw someone sitting on a slot machine, and 2 hours later they were still there waiting for a machine to open, and that was Maddie.
I was just you beat me to that. It was her huff and puff. She just had to have it. But it's crazy that the fun part in casino is people watching because you'll see people doing $5 bets on blackjack and they're upset they lost $20, but then on the very next table there's $100 minimum and some guy is doubling down on $1,000 hand. So it's certainly you see all types of people and all types of gamblers on cruise ships. Same like you meet a lot of different people in the pools and the hot tubs. Now, I'm much more of a hot tub person, especially the adult hot tubs. Did you get a chance to do the pool or the hot tubs on this trip?
So I did do the hot tubs, and they're located in the Tides bar area back there. And actually, I like it. At nighttime, it was pretty nice. It was adults only area, so it was kind of nice having just adults there, and the bar's right there, so you easily get a drink. I don't know why I never get in the pools on the ship. I don't know why. I have nothing against it. I just never do.
I When I was a lot younger, I got on the pools, but I also didn't realize that most of them are saltwater. So that is kind of a put off for me because you jump in the pool and you're expecting pool water and you get salt water. That's certainly a difference. I mean, I definitely do like going to the hot tubs. It's very easy to socialize with people up there, grab a few drinks, and just hang out. The only thing I wish, and this is more of a me thing, I wish they had like some sort of TVs in the hot tub so you could like watch sports and be in the hot tub and chill. Maybe that's a future idea.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. And that did remind us because we remember they did have that like solarium that would open and close in the back. I know the Glory actually did work because I remember they did have it closed on nights that it was raining and stuff like that. On Conquest, I remember when on Conquest it was stuck. It was stuck open, so it didn't matter if it was raining or not. It was completely closed.
You would think that if it was stuck, it should be stuck closed. But if it's stuck open, I mean, that means you couldn't use it like half the time when it was raining. And, on the Glory, it did rain the 2 days, like the Friday and the Saturday that we were on there. Sunday, I remember it being a lot better weather. And, that the Saturday did affect us when we went to Celebration Key. And, we did talk about that a little bit. So we were only actually on Celebration Key for a couple hours before just going back to the ship. Did you do any of the slides or rides on board?
Yeah, I would just, this is like basic. They're pretty much basic ride. I know this ship didn't have. I know my kids complained about this too. Is that they didn't have enough kid stuff on the ship? They just had basic slide. I think they had 2 slides. They didn't have a ropes course at all, which I know a lot of people. I know with kids didn't like that. I know they had mini golf on there. Did you
The
play
flooded mini golf?
Oh, that's right. It was like completely flooded. That's right.
Yeah, but I think by the time you got to the third hole, it was just covered in water. So I wonder if that's you have to do a double negative on that one, or you just have to play through.
Yeah, but by the way, a little tip to do. This is what I do. I think I told Jack. I don't know if he remembers, but is to bring your own golf balls because the golf balls that they have are like little foam balls, and of course the golf is always on like the top deck, and it's very windy. It just blows the foam ball away. If you have a regular golf ball, it still moves. It's not near as bad.
Have you played ping pong up there as well? That is a nightmare to play.
Yeah, it is a nightmare. They need to figure out like where to put ping pong, where like maybe indoors, like on the Breeze. I know they had a ping pong table actually in the Red Frog pub bar, and that was nice because it's inside. So I think they should do the same thing. They should find a place to put it.
Yeah, I mean, because certainly you're at the mercy of weather, especially when you're in the Caribbean. It's very tropical, so it rains a lot, and it's also going to be very windy, especially if you're on a fast moving ship. So a lot of those things. I mean, the basketball court kind of works fine. Like there's a little bit of a gate and roof over that. Wind still does get in, but it doesn't drastically affect your shot. If you shoot to the left, it moves all the way to the right. But let's kind of go back to that the port of call. And as we mentioned, we did go to the Bahamas and Celebration Key, and that was our first trip there. What did you and your family think of that?
Well, first off, we got there when it was raining like crazy, and so we went ahead and bought the day tickets. I think it was like $15 a person for the slides. So we went on that. I'm not gonna lie though, when you get up there, it was so raining and it was cold up there, and it should have not been cold because it was like 70 degrees or 80. It was probably like 80 degrees, but up there, I don't know why. It was like freezing cold because of the rain and the wind.
I remember going into the ocean and I couldn't go past my knees just because that's how cold it was. I was in the, and it looked beautiful. The one thing I would say, the beach had a ton of rocks. So if you don't have water socks, it's definitely recommended that you have some sort of footwear when you're at Celebration Key. But the the beaches were beautiful, and there were so many chairs that you could just sit out, look at the beach, and I think that was one of my favorite parts of that trip. And the lagoon was absolutely ginormous.
Yeah, there's no such thing as it being packed because there's so much room. I know technically, I think it's set up to host like 4 ships, and the max I think they're getting right now is 2 ships at a time. They actually did. I did see an article of talking about they did find a way to get 3 ships there, which meant that they were gonna have one ship leave early and another ship stay until like 8 o'clock at night. So they did find a way to get 3 ships there in a day.
I feel like that's not a good idea to have people there that late. I mean, you're already significantly intoxicated on these islands. Imagine late at night and you can't find your ship. But I mean, that's certainly a good thing that Celebration Key is going to get more and more business. And the one thing I will say about Celebration Key is it just didn't feel complete. Like the beach, great. The pool's great. There were private beaches. There was not a lot of food options, which was a little bit disappointing. But where they built it, there's so much land around it that they could expand easily. Like maybe put a golf course or maybe put like some sort of like, you know, adventure park as an excursion to do on Celebration Key besides just hanging out at the beach and the pool.
Yeah, I know they do plan on making it bigger, and actually while we were there, I think you saw that they were making a new port. They're building a new pier right there next to ours so they can host more ships. And when they host more ships, they're going to need more land, so to have more areas for more stuff to do. But I think that the food overall, I didn't like that the food, like first off, the drink package doesn't go on board, so you have to buy your own drinks and all that. And plus, if you buy, so you do get one free meal, uh, on the island, or not really island, the beach, but it does not come with a drink, which I don't know why.
Yeah, I think I remember having to pay, a couple bucks for a Coke to go along with my free hot dog. And the bugs were a big problem. I mean, and it's not really their fault. They're in the tropics, and bugs are prevalent everywhere down there. So there were bees by all the food places. I mean, the closer you take your food to the water, like the pool or the ocean, the bugs are less prevalent. But I would say if I did have that one complaint, that would be it. But the kids did like the slides, is from what it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely didn't feel like you're in the Bahamas. It kind of felt like you're just at a resort, like, or beach resort. That's pretty much what it felt like you're at.
I would say the only Bahaman themes were like those little shops along the slides. Sometimes you'll see something kind of authentic, but the prices were fairly the same as if you were at a resort. $30+ for a shirt that says Bahamas, magnets for $10. Nothing cheap like there was in Cozumel, where you could get like, where I got an Astros cup and that Cowboys. If I would have not bought it for $20, but they had every single different sports teams that were like, quote, handmade, and you could spend a couple bucks for that. It felt more like, hey, this is Carnival Sport. It just happens to be in the Bahamas versus you're in the Bahamas.
So I think I kind of know this answer for you, Jack. But so what's some of the highlights of this trip?
Definitely going to the craps table. No, the gambling aspect was a lot of fun of it. That's certainly one of the best times I've had on a Carnival ship. And just my favorite things to do on Carnival are eat, gamble, and just enjoy the ship. I wish that the weather would have been a little bit better, but that's something we can't control. But overall, I had a pretty good time. What was your favorite part?
Yeah, definitely the highlights of the trip is just spending time with family, getting away from our everyday hustle and bustle for sure. And I always hate it because I know that the last day comes whenever you're at the main dining restaurant and they start singing the goodbye song. I was just looking at that video today of us, and it brought a little tear in my eye.
I'm about to say, I don't think you cried whenever your kids were born, but every time it's disembarkation day or the last goodbye, at the dinner, I always see you shed just one little tear.
Yep, definitely, I do.
Would you do this trip again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely love the fact that we did knocked out two things. We kind of went into Universal Islands of Adventure, and did a little short 3 day cruise. It was amazing. I had a great time. I know we talked about doing another one possibly on out of California, but stay tuned. We'll definitely let y'all know on that.
Yeah, that would certainly be a fun one where, go to Magic Mountain, Knott's Berry Farms, or Disneyland, then go on a cruise ship. That sounds like a perfect Lido Loop episode right there. Was there anything that you would do different this time around if you were to go on this trip again?
Not really. I think I would have definitely like before I bought anything on Celebration Key, like even the slides and all that, I would hold off until you check the weather out that day because I paid for the slides on there, and I rode one time and I was like, this is cold. I am not having fun on this. I'm not going to do this.
I would say check the days to go, but we went, you know, at a fairly good time where it wasn't too crowded. School was still happening, so that's probably why there wasn't a whole lot of people on the ship as we thought. But at the same time, we couldn't predict the weather. So I'd say the only thing that I would do differently, try to spend a little bit more time doing other things besides, eating and gambling, even though those are my two favorite things. Explore the ship a little more. I've always wanted to go on a ship tour, and I did that a long time ago, but I haven't done it, since I was a little kid. So that's I know that's a upgraded paid experience, but that's something I would probably do in my next cruise.
Yeah, so disembarkation on the ship was hectic as always, but Carnival at Port Canaveral, they have it down. They're really good about getting us off the ship and getting the next people on. So pretty much when we got off the ship, we pretty much just head straight to the airport, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very simple process to get off the ship and then to our car. And like, we mentioned earlier, we parked essentially right next to where our ship was boarding. So came out, went through customs and, in a breeze. And then I would say we were off that ship, like from when we left our room after we left breakfast, less than 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was definitely good. I know we didn't really talk about this yet, but the car, what car did we get and from who?
We got a Honda Odyssey, and we also got it from New. So if you listen to our previous episode, my last trip to Disney, I went with New, and they're pretty. And I'm not sponsored by New at all, but New is a very cheap car rental service that I use every time I go to Orlando. And the last time I got a Dodge Durango, this time it was a Honda Odyssey. So it was a pretty decent sized van that fit all seven of us very comfortably. No curbs were hurt in the making of this trip this time. But it's cheap, and how they make their money is they sell you car insurance. So you don't have to use their car insurance. You can actually just use your own insurance because most insurances will cover car rental, protection depending on your policy. So, I mean, if you're in Orlando, I've also used them in Las Vegas, but it's a very cheap, affordable way to get around with a car. And also, I think in Florida, it's very recommended to have a rental car.
And yeah, and using the parking there, a lot of people tried to like pre-purchase the parking and all that. You can, even with the rentals or anything, it's a lot better to just pay right there as soon as you enter the parking garage, you pay and you park. You don't have to pre-register your license plate. You don't have to worry about any of that. The cheapest option and the best option is just go directly and park right next to the port.
Yeah, and I remember the parking lot that we went to, there was not a lot of people there. Like there was tons of space for us to park, and we parked fairly close to an elevator where we only had to go down like 2 or 3 floors to actually get onto the ship. So, and also getting from Orlando, we kind of didn't really talk about this, but getting from Orlando to Cape Canaveral was incredibly easy. It was maybe about an hour drive from where our hotel was in pretty central Orlando to Cape Canaveral. And that's, with Orlando being very central in Florida. There was no traffic. I think the only traffic we got to was the lights leading up to the ship. I mean, there was hardly anyone on the road when we went over there.
Yeah, and so in getting from an airport, I know we did have an issue. We thought we might have an issue with Spirit, getting onto the airplane. What was that about, Jack?
So this is be warned in Orlando. They will try to measure your bags. If they deem your bag is too big on the flight, they will try to step you aside and make you pay for it. This happened to me personally in Miami when I went to spring training a few years ago. Before I could even get through TSA security, they made me, check my bag, and I had to end up paying $90 for my backpack to fly from Miami to Houston. They were stopping some people in Orlando when you and I and everyone went on the Carnival Glory trip, and then of course the Disney trip. Jacob and Maddie got stopped because their backpacks are too big, but luckily they pushed it down and they got their backpacks to fit. So be careful. Flying to Orlando, they may check your backpack.
Yeah, honestly, the whole reason that I do fly with Spirit is because I always try to make the trip a backpack trip. Every trip I usually do is a backpack trip. If it can fit in this backpack for the most part, you're good to go. But when you start overstuffing your backpack and they're gonna make you pay. So always when you pack it originally, try to leave a little room for like that 1 or 2 souvenirs that you plan on getting, or just get like a T-shirt or a magnet as a souvenir. So don't get anything big.
Yeah, no giant, inflatables from Universal or giant stuffed animals or anything like that. Or even the carnival towels that they sell on the ship. Don't get them, guys. But that'll do it for this week's episode of the Lido Loop. That was our Carnival Glory review. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jack. That's Jesse. And we will see you
on the Lido deck
or at the craps table where you can meet some new friends.
Thank you for watching this episode of Lido Loop. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you're notified every time we post more content.